have for both people who are just trying to buy their first time property, but then also for folks who want to do it on a bigger level. Maybe they have some property, but they want to learn how to do some things in the city. And so Donald's here tonight to talk to us about that. So without further ado, we'll turn over the floor to him. But what I want to do is, Donald, introduce yourself to the people, because you know me, you better than I know you. Introduce yourself to the people, what you do for the city, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Well, thank you, Pastor Dexter. Donald Wright again. I'm the Deputy Director of the Real Estate Management and Sales Division in the city of Boston. Our division is responsible for the care, custody, and ultimate sale of tax foreclosed property. And my background in this is prior to coming to the city, I worked for a real estate investment trust company for about 10 years. Really got my feet wet, really got excited about what I was learning in that space. Avalon Bay, great company to work for. A lot of cash flow.
A lot of cash flow. Deep pockets.
Deep pockets, to say the least. But what it did, though, working with them gave me a real insight to property management on one end and construction development on the other end. And it really kind of got my juices going. And I said, wow, I can do this.
Right.
And as I started to do research, I realized that there's not a lot of us in this space, and especially on a corporate level of that size. So what it did, it sort of got me to a place where I had to now reposition myself. We're talking about new year, right? We're talking about this being the year of getting started. I realized there were some things that I needed to do to be better prepared for me, right, to work in this space. So I went to Northeastern and I got my MBA from Northeastern. Sometime after that, it was really interesting. Got a call from a friend to, hey, you know what? There's a great opportunity in the city. Never thought about the city. Never thought about it. My office was on Boylston Street. I drove through it because I live in Dorchester. Drove to my office and I would come back, spend a lot of my resources in and around Newberry, Boylston, and that sort of thing. But once I got introduced to that position, thank you, appreciate it. I do have
It's all good.
Yep. See, when I had hair, you couldn't see this, right? So that's the issue. Thank you.
And these lights are hot.
Yep. And so when I got the call about the city, what it gave me was an opportunity to look at our neighborhoods, our streetscape, our context, building types like I never had before. It was the opportunity to take what the city had in foreclosed property and get it back on the tax roll, and I would have an opportunity to do that. Exciting. And so I've been with the city, it'll be 10 years in May. My plan was to only be here for a few, right, for 3 years, because all I wanted to do was learn how to do real estate development.
And do it yourself.
Right, and learn it via the municipality. How do I get through the city, right? Mayor's office, elected officials, all those things that, as a larger developer, these are some of the stuff that you need to do. So I'm going, okay, it shouldn't be a problem. It's not gonna take me that long to figure this out. Oh yeah. My first community meeting, I realized, ooh, this is not going to be. It's not going to be easy because of the historical, sort of indiscretions, and we can talk redlining and all those types of things that deal with real estate. But I realized that coming into the position, I had to now look at what had been done in the past. Not own it, so to speak, but really change the way we program so that folks would feel like we were transparent, that this process wasn't created behind closed doors. Exactly. And what that did was it put me in a position to do my job really on the ground. So I started, I'm going to everybody's community meeting. I'm meeting the butters to our lots who've had concerns or issues over the years that nobody responded to. I'm sitting in kitchens, and I use the term Miss Jenkins. That's a term of endearment. But there's seniors in our community that have questions. Nobody would answer Mrs. Jenkins' questions about that lot next door. So there was a lot that came to it, to doing this work, because I work for a housing development agency. And so I'm thinking, we can spread this out a little bit. And so it became an opportunity for me to get in the community and look at folks like you in the room who are interested in doing real estate, who want to be a developer or want to do something to kind of get in this space, I'm going, oh, this is a grand opportunity, right? And so I've spent the last 10 years really trying, and I'm going to talk about a program we're doing now, of really trying to get more folks involved in the work that we're doing. Our work it's time consuming. It takes a while from a funding perspective. And some folks, it's the opportunity or the ability to do something in their neighborhoods where they grew up in, right? And so a lot of folks like to say, you know what? I lived on the street for so many years, that lot is available, I'd like to build something, right? And so we go through a process of really educating folks, on that. So as I said, I've been with the city for 10 years. We've had a number of programs, and I'm going to segue there a little bit.
Because could talk about that, because part of what I want to, come on in, Monica, sit right there. Part of what we want to do is have people get a sense of, and you hit on it, what exactly does it take for me to build or to buy in Boston because of the price, intimidation factors and things of that nature. So a lot of people start their career outside of the city, but I believe there are a lot of opportunities within the city, and so that's why I really want to have you talk about some of those things. So I'm giving you guys a segue as to why I brought Brother Donald in, because I wanted him to obviously give us that bigger perspective from a city perspective of how the city is thinking, but then also as a guy whose boots on the ground, who's very interested in building our community and building home ownership and building wealth. But this is all about. It's about using real estate as a wealth creation tool, because that's what we want to do, correct? That's why y'all here tonight. And so that's why I want to have him come in. So talk about some of those things.
So from a programming perspective, I'm going to talk about the new initiative. I'm not too sure if everybody had been aware of the press conference that Mayor Wu had on our, it's called Welcome Home Boston. It's our new home ownership initiative. We received some ARPA funding, which is really going to support this program. And the funding that we receive from the federal government will allow for us to increase our funding towards first-time home buyer classes like Home Buying 101, down payment assistance and closing costs as well. And typical funding that we would do, but now we can
expand that.
Right, exactly. We can touch a number of more households. And as I talk about Welcome Home Boston, which is really, really exciting opportunity, what the mayor also did is she did a land audit. I'm not too sure if everyone is familiar with that in here, but what she wanted to do is get a general idea of what does the city's inventory look like,
right? Okay.
And what is it conducive for? Is it all commercial? Is it residential? Is that this, that, and the other? And so between the Boston Planning Agency and the Mayor's Office of Housing, we were able to consolidate, our data, and get a general sense of what's out there. So Welcome Home Boston is the Mayor's Office of Housing's new first-time buyers, sort of development opportunity, right? Okay. So we're looking for developers, but also first-time home buyers. So we identified, roughly 150 parcels or so that are ideal for some relative form of development, single family, two family, and maybe even some 3-story structures or something to that effect. What we did was we started, and let me stop real quick. There's a QR code on here, so if you guys have noticed those QR codes, just scan your phone to it. It'll take you to a landing page of the actual website that we have for this housing program. It also has an interactive map that would allow for you to kind of do a little data mining right on your own, if there's a street that you're interested or what have you. But please take a look at the QR code and log in that way. But what we did was we identified an approach to how we would go about this, Pastor, right? And so what we wanted to do was, we knew that there was some time constraints on these resources we received from the federal government, and that we had to now take on our process in a way that we hadn't done that before. Typically, we go parcel by parcel. We sit down, we talk about this, we have a community meeting, we put out an RFP, and we kind of go back and forth. In this case, we're talking about roughly 150 parcels. How are we going to do that? In a way in which that's fair, equitable, et cetera. So we took on a big approach here, and we parceled out 70 or so parcels. We did a walking tour, we held first it was the announcement that the mayor made.
Right.
Then we had a community event at the Talbot at Boys and Girls Club on Talbot Ave. And what that gave us was an opportunity to do a charrette-styled community meeting where you got to talk to the design team. You talked to myself and Julio on Development 101. There was folks from MHIC and LIST, these are funding sources. And so you got the gamut, but the issue was we had to do it in a pretty short period of time. So our process was that one meeting. Then after that, we did a walking tour. It was freezing that day, and I want to thank the folks that came. It was real cold that day. But we had a really just nice time. Again, it was really cold. And I brought this sign for a reason. We didn't post them all up around the city. We are going to get them up. But we did post probably about 7 or 8 of these during that walking tour, that route. So the constituency would see that there's some activity. And what we do is we post these on the sites themselves.
Right.
Great opportunity. And so what we're doing now is looking to get the RFP out for these first 70. We're still doing some internal vetting on what that request for proposal is going to look like. Right. But I would say that, the folks, before I segue, is if you're interested, and two sides of this, right? If you're a first-time home buyer, great opportunity for you here. Right. But if you're also interested in taking on a role as developer, if you're interested in forming a joint venture and you got some folks that, you could really put together a development team and maybe take this on, great opportunity as well. Right. The city's a little different than the private market, a whole lot different. So I will be clear with that. But, some great opportunities there.
And I think Donald said a number of things that, you have to take advantage of opportunities while the opportunity is there. And a lot of times what I sense dealing with people is that they first of all, they don't get a chance to find out the opportunities are available, number one. And number two, they're slow to take advantage for whatever reason. And so part of what needs to happen is being in rooms like this is us partnering and getting a sense of, hey, what are you interested in, what are you interested in? And then let's pool our resources together, whether it be economic or work-related as far as people with trades and things of that nature, and put together teams. And so joint ventures and partnerships, listen, everything, y'all, is partnerships. Everything is partnerships. If you try to go this business alone, you will get your clock clean, so to speak. But partnerships allow you to go a lot faster. And so obviously you got to vet people and y'all got to get on the same page and all that. But in my experience and people that I talk to and see who are really having some serious success, it's because they're getting involved in partnerships. And so part of what we want to do and part of get a sense of what I had Donald come here for is what is a successful partnership? What is the city of Boston looking for? So if I'm coming to a table as a developer, what are you guys looking for from from my development team?
So I'll tell you, Pastor, we this is very general. You want to structure a team with folks. Literally, if your sweet spot is finance, then you're going to be the finance guy on the team. You definitely want somebody like that. Right. You want folks with various skill sets, and you really want to be able to. It may not be your best friend or the guy you have coffee with. Like the pastor said, you need to do some research. Yeah. I put together a joint venture workshop a number of years ago with the old office of OED, which is EOI now, excuse me. And
now, some of those the
acronyms.
Break them down. Break down the acronyms. RFP,
equity, right? So I'm going to do that, right? RFP is a request for proposal. You'll hear me use that interchangeably as well. But what I realize in this process is that if I'm putting out a housing program, what I'm looking for folks to build it. And what I heard from the development community, especially in the Black and brown folks, is that we don't have the folks that, I know how to build the house, but I don't know how to underwrite it. I know how to build the house, but I don't know zoning code. All these little things that kept people from responding, right? And so what I wanted to do was have a workshop where folks could look at an RFP, go through that, had a consultant come in.
Okay.
And really go through an RFP. But what I wanted to do is say, you're a plumber, you're an electrician, how much skin can you have in the game? Right. Like how does that work when you're building a residential unit, right? And that's why I thought it made sense. Building a house, a two-family, a single, or what have you, is more palatable,
Right.
you know, for you know, a smaller
Someone
group or
starting
something
out,
like
yeah,
that, right?
exactly.
When you're starting out.
It ain't Avalon.
Yeah, no, not at all.
No, you ain't on that level. Yeah.
But the outcome of that was folks had a better understand about structuring a team, because there's certain things that I'm going to look for, and as you respond to a request for proposal, you know, we're going to look at your development team in and of itself, your design concept, your schedule. Is your project feasible, right? And so if you don't have it, well, you have to have an architect on your team. I was going to say, if you don't have one, there's a problem.
Yeah, that
but
ain't gonna work,
it's the same thing on the finance side. You know, if you're trying to use funding sources you're not familiar with, then you've got to get someone that is, right? And so if you're going to use, you know, tax credits and you have no idea what that's about,
You don't even know what a tax credit is.
Then you have to consult folks. If you are trying to get in, and my colleagues over in neighborhood housing development really deal with this, is really trying to line up proposals, awards, et cetera, with the timeline for state funding, right? And so when you think about it, you want your project to be designated. You want to be able to come in for a funding round, because if you're coming in and doing an affordable project, I don't expect you to be backing up the truck with tons of resources. What you're trying to do is acquire some of those funding sources, so you're not out. And so what we've been able to do, I would say, is paint a picture over the years, right? This is what a good team looks like. If you respond to a request for proposal, what typically I like to do is, if you're not awarded, then I want you to come back in and we want to go through your proposal and identify some of the weaknesses in there. I'm going to tell you a secret. It's not really a secret, folks. But if you're going to respond to a proposal of any sort with a municipality, ask for the most recent awarded proposal of that sort. You see, it's public record. So you're call, email, it's basically kind of like a FOIA request.
That's your cheat sheet.
Yeah. So that's a procurement contract, that's an RFP, an RFQ, or what have you. It's public record. So you guys can ask for that, copies of it.
Okay.
And that works as well.
Sweet. No, that's real good to know.
Yeah.
Because because there's a precedence that's been set, and so basically you follow the precedence of who won before you, and just following that to your best of your ability.
You figure you sharpen your pencil, but then also at the same time you know, cost escalations, et cetera. Your material costs, labor costs are going to go. So all these things you can factor in, but it gives you a guide.
Right.
And if you weren't thinking, oh man, I needed to do this part of the proposal or that, then there you go. Right. You know, so again, I'm also going to say this on the project management side. Anytime somebody puts out a bid opportunity, a request for proposal, and information for bid, et cetera, there's a project manager's name on there.
Right.
Please call that person just to introduce yourself.
Right.
Even if you don't have a question to ask. I've asked this so many times. Did you reach out to the project manager? No. Why not? Did you have questions about the proposal? Yes, I did. I was stuck on this, I was stuck on that, and then did you reach out to the project manager? So please, folks, please reach out to the project manager and submit your proposal when it's done. You don't have to wait until the due date. The deadline. Right. Don't. When you're done, send.
Okay.
That's just a little tidbit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm taking notes, y'all. All right. Questions? Anybody got questions? Usually y'all got a lot of questions. You got a lot of questions. Can you hand that microphone, John?
How are you?
Okay. Thank you for that. I have a question in regards to, they say the median income in Boston is something 100,000 or something like that. But when I look at the black and brown people that I know, the medium income is probably about 50, 65, somewhere between there, nowhere near, and that's a stretch. Right. How is it that we could buy property in Boston when everything is so high? Like, how do you, because a lot of the younger generation is getting discouraged because they're like, I can't buy anything here. I just have to go.
Right.
And us who already own our property and paying way less mortgage than what they're paying for rent.
Apartment.
An apartment is like, how do you encourage them?
Right. So are you done? Yeah. Okay. I would say let's not discourage them and talk about how bad it is, but actually put them in a position to better understand the dynamics of it. Right. If you just want to be a first-time home buyer and live in your neighborhood, that's very different than being an investor or something like that in that same neighborhood. What I will say is we are fortunate in that, in the housing stock that we create in the Mayor's Office of Housing goes from homeless set aside, and those AMIs, area median incomes, which is what you're referring to, and based on the project, it'll have various levels of AMI. Right, and so home ownership or a rental project, they will list those AMIs out, and they will also list out what those either sales prices might be or what those rent levels might be at the same time. What the challenge is the fact that there's so many people vying for those same units, right? And so what we're trying to do is keep up pace, right? Is try to get these units out. But I'm going to encourage, all the folks to reach out to the Boston Home Center. And I bought some stuff, and I'm going to send over some stuff to Pastor that he can circulate with you guys. But the Boston Home Center is a great place to start. That's what a Home Buying 101 course is. We have housing fairs where you get to meet with the lenders, and you get to ask those really tough questions. Stuff that you may want to whisper to somebody, my credit might be like this.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so what we want to do is put you in an environment where any and everyone are in the room and you can have these conversations, and it's really a fun event. I mean, it's a family-friendly event when you do these. And in conjunction with, we have units that can be shown at that time. It's even better. And I've seen some folks, go into some of our construction sites where, close to getting a CO's gotten in, and then we can get some folks in. That's when it really makes the difference, when you can see the stock that we're building. For a number of folks that are in the city, whether it be Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, used to be able to say, oh, that's a city house. Yeah, I know that's a city house. I hear it all the time. But what we've done is really try to address those design concerns, material concerns, and that sort of thing in the request for proposal. So that that house that's being built is one contextually like the one that may be next to it or across the street, but also is going to withstand some of the elements that we've seen that you're painting and all that other stuff. So we're definitely building a better stock now.
Yeah. Good. Any other questions out there? I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Talk about the properties. Like I was in Roxbury the other day, and I saw a couple properties this property in particular was a fire burn property, and it had the city of Boston on it. How do you get involved with those type of properties?
So anytime, I mean, you understanding this, when a house burns, like when there's a fire, you've got to go through all this sort of legal stuff. You got to go through your insurance and your mortgage company and all that stuff. So that stuff very much so takes a period of time. I think in particular when you talk about parcels that you've seen, that house been bought up for a long time. Yeah. So the city has really been, over the years, and I've heard this even before I came, where the city was really trying to get to some of those absentee owners who just kind of let those buildings sit for quite some time. Now the good part about it is we don't see as many as we did probably in the 90s or something like that. But what the city does, and again, I kind of go back to the beginning, is the way in which the Mayor's Office of Housing acquires property is through tax foreclosure and surplus, right? So, you know, if a school building comes online, like we just put out the Pride in Hyde Park, which is that senior LGBTQ residents. So there's that. We have, I'm trying to think of another good one for you. Anyway, but what I will say is that in the midst of creating these opportunities, we want to make sure, right, that not only does everybody know about them,
Right.
that folks have access to them, right? So it's not just home buying 101, it's all the support that comes with it. What you get then is a relationship that you started before you even bought the house.
Right.
With folks, right? And so you're now starting to be a little bit more comfortable. That credit conversation ain't that hard no more.
Right.
Right? After you had the initial one.
Right. Yeah.
And you know what you have to do, right? Trying to deal with sort of, do I need to buy an owner occupied side by side? What does that owner occupied thing mean? And when can I sell? These are all questions that we answer for you, right? So we put you in a space to be able to address, you know, a lot of that. I don't want folks to go, okay, well, I don't want to buy a house now, I just want to wait. You still want to get the information. So if right now is not the ideal time for you, still go to the Boston Home Center, do the one-on-one, and then you at least will have the knowledge, because part of that is, what are your patterns in life going to be like once you have this knowledge? Are you gonna be charging up stuff on a credit card? Are you gonna be, you know what I'm saying? So once you have the knowledge, you're gonna move a little differently, right? You're gonna be able to assess.
At this level.
Yeah, you're gonna be able to start looking at the homes that you're interested in through a very different lens, right? And then maybe you go, okay, well, you know what? Can I save a little bit more? Maybe get something bigger. Like, what is it that you can do? Please understand, and I'm gonna go back to the AMIs, is that there's a lot that goes with that, right? And so if you're gonna be in an income restricted home, you've got to understand the details of those restrictions. And they'll talk to you guys about that. Resale restrictions, et cetera. These are very important things. It's not just getting in the home and going, oh, okay, when you want to pull out some equity, they go, oh, you can't do that in the same way you do it. And so understanding the product that you're getting into is really important.
And I think that has been, I'm gonna say the challenge, but getting people to first of all of this is a mindset. You know, I was looking at I forgot the Don Peoples, big time developer. Anybody heard that name? Don Peoples. If you know anything about, if you haven't, you need to look him up. He is the Mac as far as developing is concerned. But one of the things he said was home ownership for African Americans is either at the same level or even lower than it was during the civil rights movement. So that's crazy to think about all the advances that we've made, been able to vote and, you know, sit at counters and all those type of things, but we still are lagging behind in home ownership. And home ownership, I always tell you guys, I believe home ownership and real estate just in general is the lowest hanging fruit on the wealth building tree. Meaning you don't even have to know what you're doing half the time. It can build wealth through real estate. So the thing is, part of what we're looking to do is how can we, and what Don was talking about, what could we do if we strategically had the education and strategically took the right steps to buy property, and then, as Vanessa was saying, showed how the next generation how to do that, and then build off that, because that's what people are doing. People either acquire their wealth through real estate or keep it. That's the bottom line. And so I think your point of, first of all, don't get discouraged. And even some of you in here tonight, you know, you probably said, Dexter, man, I ain't even got my first, I don't even have my own primary route. You talking about developing parcels and all that, you know, but, and what you have to do is any new thing you're learning, you just got to hang in there for a little while. Learn a terminology. There is a language of capital. See, that's what you're talking about. Yeah. Different languages of capital, languages of the trades, languages of how to buy. And a lot of times, because we haven't learned the language, we first of all stay intimidated, but then we don't take advantage. And I'll end on this. I had a member of our church just texted me Sunday and said, Pastor, my nephew is buying a house now. She just bought her property in Brockton like two or 3 years ago, and she was like for years had been renting. And then now she was a Jackie Robinson, and then now her nephew was buying. He's buying in South Carolina. So the thing is, once one person does it, it opens the door and gives other people permission to be able to step through that door. And so that's why I'm using you guys as disciples and advocates, saying, hey, look, man, come get this information. Come, let's do deals together, because once the people in your sphere of influence see you doing it, it's going to give them permission to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
I tell, if I can say this, Pastor, I tell my son, who the pastor knows, he's in a very different position than I was. I was fortunate in that my mother built the house when I was I was out the house though by that time. I was in the military at that point.
But at least she built it.
But that was right.
She built it.
I watched her go through getting things together. I didn't know what that was back at the time, all the stuff on the dinner table and her stressing and looking, oh man. But the benefit of it was the family barbecue, the first time. And I look back on that now and I go,